Hi, thanks for being here. You're listening to A Conversation with Jordan. That's me. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Welcome to episode 3, I believe. And you want to know something? I actually restarted this one because I was on, I only talked for like 1 minute before I restarted because I started to mention that earlier today, I was in a coffee shop working on some stuff, and I just opened up my email and came across this random email that said that I received a payment on Stripe. And I was like, what's that payment for? And then I saw this sweet note. I hope you're listening to this. From a guy named Nathan. You just sent me over a little money and thanked me for this podcast. And I was so blessed by that gesture today. And the reason I restarted this podcast is because I just remembered it as I started talking for this particular episode. And I was like, oh yeah, I saw that like really briefly. I just had to hop over the email really quickly. So I have not responded to you personally yet. But I hope that you listen to this. And I just want to say a big thank you. It's unreal. Like, I know that I haven't announced this podcast to that many people because I've only shared it in my newsletter so far. So, and then again, I'm also uploading it to the YouTube channel. And so maybe there's a few little stragglers that don't subscribe to my newsletter that are seeing these podcast episodes over there. But yeah, and just like the few amount of you who are listening, it's always surprises me that like I don't know who some of you are, you know. It expands beyond just my family and friends. There's random people around the world listening to my podcast, and thank you for just showing your face and for just the sweetest gesture ever to just send me a little donation. And I can't tell you what a blessing that was for my day today. I just really needed that. So thank you. I don't even know if I can respond to you on that email because it's like a PayPal payment. But if I don't get the opportunity to, I hope you hear this and you hear the genuineness and how thankful I am for your kindness. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And also, again, thank you for the people who are listening to this. It just really means a lot. This has been a really, really sweet and really healing creative outlet for me. I really learned about myself that I like to switch things up quite a bit. You want to know where I'm honestly at right now? I'm a video, I've been a freelance videographer. That's been my quote, not identity as a person, but identity in my career is a freelance videographer, and a filmmaker. And I love that. I love video work, but I'm getting tired. And I wanted to probably do this for a long time, but there's a part of me that's also like, okay with transitioning to these other outlets, and wherever my career might take me. And I kind of like holding every part of my career with open hands, to see where I go, what direction I end up in, and to not be afraid of shifting and changing and morphing into new things. Like, I really have love supporting the online community, and honestly, I want to show up even better for it. But I'm just reminding myself daily that we live in a world that's like more, always more. So every day I wake up and I'm like, I want to show up more. And I really do, because I really, really care. But we were not like created to be in this like excess living all the time with just more everything, more things, more entertainment, more whatever, I don't know, less sleep. More means less of something, and we're getting less healthy things because we're doing more unhealthy things. Anyway, I'm getting into the depths, but that brings me to a different point that I know I wanted to talk about, although I don't think I finished my first point. I think the point finished itself, so sorry, but I was thinking the other day about like a typical job and how sometimes people complain about a bad boss. We know that bad leadership is not a fun thing. leadership is really important within anything. A good leader creates a good environment and a good culture. A bad leader does not. A bad boss does not. And you've heard the complaints of a bad boss. And I was just thinking, all these solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and people living their lives on social media and building their own businesses. We are our own boss, but you know what else is kind of taking the place of a boss? That's a really bad boss. The algorithm and the people running the algorithm of social media. And if you really think about it, it's a really bad boss, because that boss tells you, you don't get to rest, you don't get to sleep, you must keep producing content, and you must produce consistency, and you must do it this way, and I might reward you for your actions, I might not. It's like a slave driver. The algorithm is making us into being slaves of its unpredictable leadership, and I don't think we think about that sometimes. We don't really consider that maybe we're under bad leadership when it comes to the algorithm. And I know I'm using this as a metaphor. I hope you're picking up on the metaphor. But, if you had a caring friend in your life and they saw somebody who was just pummeling you to the ground, telling you that you needed to work harder and you needed to do things different and sometimes giving you the light of day, but being so inconsistent with, their reward or their, how they're treating you, your friend would probably tell you, hey, you might have to stay there, but that's not a good thing. That's not super healthy. And I don't know if people are really viewing the algorithm as if it's not a good boss, and recognizing that maybe that you should have some boundaries up against that leadership, and not just let it be. So maybe a dumb metaphor. This just came to mind for me yesterday as I was listening. Really what it's stemming from is I was listening to this thing talking all about Sabbath. And again, that's a Christian term, but Sabbath is all about resting. And the cool thing about Sabbath and rest is there's so much science and research behind how beneficial it is to Sabbath to actually have a day of rest every single week. A stat I keep hearing is, I forget it. I remember it. I don't remember the details. You can go look this up. I don't remember if it was France. It was somewhere else that tried to shift the world into a 10-day work week, and everything plummeted. Productivity plummeted. I guess not everything plummeted, but depression was on the rise. People did not survive well in a 10-day work week. Productivity did not get better. And that proves and shows that the 7-day week that we were set up with in creation, and the seventh day being given to us as a gift of rest, is actually one of the most beneficial things for the rhythm of our lives and humanity. And what's funny is our world is doing everything it can nowadays to remove that, to ignore the fact that we kind of need that rest. Everything's about more. Nowadays, I think there was another stat that there's 300,000 on average in the American home, 300,000 items in a house. And it's true. I'm sitting here looking over at these items that I have in some bins over here in my room that I have not probably looked at in months. It's just kind of excess stuff. Anyway, this is just me. I hope I don't know, I guess I'm nervous all of a sudden in this podcast because I never want to sound negative. I'm not trying to complain. I'm just expressing thoughts of yeah, I want to be reminded of that. I want to be reminded of how much excess that I'm living in, and how much excess I've been living in the sense of productivity too. You've heard me in multiple podcasts talk about productivity and how much I love doing things, and getting things done. But it's been a really, really great reminder to not do too much, to not continuously think that I need to do more. So For all of those of you listening to this podcast who might be in my online community, I really love you guys. I really love being in community with you guys. And I'm really thankful it's been so valuable for you. You've been telling me that, and it's been really rich to experience that with you. And I thank you for your grace with me always. Like, it is the sweetest thing. I want to shout out Helen within the community. There was one week that I noticed not a lot of people could make it to the live chat, and I was like trying to adjust for everybody and change the day. And Helen's like, why don't you just take the week off and get some rest? And I just thought that was like the sweetest thing, that she's literally paying to be in the community and is asking me to take a day off and a week off. And that is like the sweetest return. I mean, I couldn't be more blessed by people who equally care for me. That's what the gift is about building a community like that, is that we are all humans and friends, just trying to support each other holistically. That's my whole heart behind building it, and it's been so sweet to receive as well as give. And that's another point. Like, I have learned more than ever in my life in the past, I'd say since I moved to Oregon, so it's been like 8 years. In the past 8 years, I've learned what a gift it is to receive. I have these friends, and it's kind of the best. They're family. They're a family that I can just tell was bred into the culture of their family. They don't really have the obligation of politeness. I don't think that's a word, but you'll see what I mean. So, for instance, in America especially, I don't know if this expands to other cultures, but it is typically, a lot of people are raised to be kind of a fake polite, of like, oh, so somebody tells them that they'll do a favor for them, and then they respond, oh, you don't have to do that, it's okay, but they actually do want them to do it, they're just saying the polite phrase. Or telling them like, no worries, it doesn't matter, when they actually do want something to be done for them. And I love that I have friends who take you literally. And I realized I was the kind of person that would say some of those polite phrases of like, yeah, I need a ride to the airport, but like, it's totally okay if you can't do it and stuff like that, or if you don't want to. And they'd be like, okay. I was like, oh, okay, you took me literally. And I loved that. I absolutely loved that. They held me more accountable to mean what I said, and to not just say something that was polite, and to actually ask for something intentionally when I needed it, and be confident about asking instead of being just like this fake polite about it. And I have loved learning that lesson, because it's really taught me to learn to receive. And I think the better you are at receiving blessings, the better you are at giving as well. It is more of a gift to learn to receive than I think it is to give, because giving kind of makes you feel good no matter what. That's just kind of the gift behind giving, is you can have a pride, which is not great, but about feeling good about doing something for someone else. But receiving is a really humbling state of being, to just receive a blessing from someone else. And you know what's the worst? I just want to encourage you in this. The worst is to be bad at receiving. It's worse for the giver. Because say somebody pays you a compliment and you constantly say, oh no, and you deny their compliment. What does that do for the person giving you the compliment? It just takes away any of the joy of giving that compliment. They're like, oh, well, I did really mean it, but I guess they won't receive it. So it's not super fun to give a compliment. Or if you give a gift and the person receiving it is like so kind of ashamed of receiving that gift, they're like, thanks, you really didn't have to. And it just takes the joy away again from the giver giving the gift. Like, they gave you the gift because they wanted to give you the gift. So being able to receive it well is actually a blessing for all people in the picture. So anyway, I've just been so thankful to learn what it means to receive well and to receive help. Speaking of that, I was very blessed by my local community here. I've had to be on a stricter protocol for diet for some of the health things I've been going through. And there was one night that my church community group just wanted to meal prep me some food. And that felt like a lot of attention on me. Everybody's gonna come together to focus on making me meals. Like, talk about receiving and being uncomfortable. And I've always disliked being the center of attention. But I've been so thankful to learn that I've learned how to receive better, to just sit there and accept the blessing that they're giving me. And I know that they all enjoyed doing that for me, and they felt good to give that to me, and helped me out. And that's what community is all about. And so I think if you feel like an inconvenience to a lot of people, that's a built protection, and like I don't know where it comes from. A lot of us feel that way. A lot of us feel like an inconvenience to others. And I just want to encourage you to kind of wrestle out of that mindset, and allow yourself to be blessed by other people. So with all that being said, again, thank you to the people within my online community who are trying to bless me in return by giving me grace and allowing me to have rest when I really, really need it, as I'm trying to build something really meaningful and good for everybody. So again, if you're listening to this podcast and if you're not interested in the online community, don't worry about it. That's fine. But if you are interested, like, I really would love to have you in there. It's been so sweet. It's just been so good. For those who don't know what it is, it's should I edit this out? Should I edit this part of the podcast out when I stumble over my words? Nope, not going to. The online community is a place for creatives and filmmakers and photographers to be there to support each other holistically, to get better at your craft. I found that the thing that people love the most within being in the community so far is receiving feedback on their work. And I'm trying to build a culture within the community to make it a place where, like, if you just want affirmation, we'll give you affirmation. We'll praise the work that you're doing and support you and like genuinely, not just fake praise, like genuinely call out the things that we love about it. But if you also want like really critical, constructive feedback, that we're there for that too, to really help you get better and improve your craft. Like, all of it's free game to help you out and support you in whatever way you need in the particular season that you're in, the particular mindset you're in. So that's something that I've been told has been a really good, cool thing within the community, as well as the live chats every week and getting to connect and ask questions. And it's been so cool to celebrate everyone making forward progress in their goals. And oh my gosh, it just makes me so happy. So there's so much more to say about the community, but I've shared a lot about it in different areas, so I don't need to make this podcast about it. But I would love to welcome you into that if you are interested in joining us for the journey, for the creative journey, for the personal journey of life together within community. So, okay. Oh, I had something really good to say. And I'm kind of making it a goal to like not really edit out anything in this podcast, but I've lost my train of thought. I hope it comes back. I hope that you get to hear whatever good thing I had to say, because it is currently gone. But I'll move on to something else and maybe it will come back. But now I feel stuck. Do you feel, I'm curious, like, as you're listening to a podcast, I guess you can't answer my question, but I'm asking you, like, if somebody sits there and they stumble over their words and they say, like, does your mind go to boredom, or do you get more engaged to be like, what are they going to say? What are they going to talk about? I wonder. I'm just fascinated by what your current experience is, although you can't answer me. Although I think on Spotify, there's a Q&A section that you can actually like share your thoughts. Also, if you want to like, I'm just now going into self-promotion, but if you want to help rate this podcast for me, if you're actually enjoying it, I think that helps get it out there. But I'm going to start sharing it to other people too, so that more people can start listening, or else they're going to be like, why did you tell us about your podcast when now we have like 5 million things to listen to? 5 million. I'm literally on my 3rd episode. Okay, I'm really getting off track here, even though I don't even have a track. There was another thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, well, I'm an immediate hypocrite because I did just cut this portion of the podcast because I could not bring my train of thought back. Have you ever had those moments where you have a thought that comes into your mind and then immediately it leaves again, and then it comes back and it leaves? That kept happening to me. I like would remember it and then I'm like, wait a second, where did it go again? It's so weird when your brain does that. Anyway, I have the thought, even though it's kind of abstract. I think that's why it keeps leaving my brain, because it's not like a super solid thought. But I was just thinking about this earlier today, is being present, being very present with life. You know, when you have something pretty major happen in your life and you're like, oh wow, nothing else matters. Like everything else that I was worrying about doesn't matter now because something like really big happened. I really want to try to live life without needing that big moment, without needing the major health diagnosis, without needing the family member who got in a car accident, without needing just those really big, hard things that happen and that make you come back to the present reality of like, oh yeah, I want to just enjoy my day and not worry about all the little stuff. So I was just thinking about this and being like, I am so tired of, getting into the rhythm accidentally. Like I think we drift into these rhythms of forgetting to breathe and pause and enjoy the season that we are currently in without trying to escape it into the next season or the next thing. This is not a new concept. You've heard this from thousands of people. We all think this, but I just wanted to bring it up as a reminder to myself, to you, to maybe even today, try to live within that reality of one of those big moments where you come back to like, you ground back to the idea that, man, today in itself, I really want to enjoy it because I don't know what the next 3 hours of my life could look like. Something major could happen that could shift literally everything. And so I'd rather just enjoy right now instead of being so caught up and concerned with what I'm concerned about. So I just wanted to talk about that as another reminder and yeah, and come to peace. Come to peace in this moment. I've really needed I am someone who, the reason I get so inconsistent on social media, even though I really I'm just a walking contradiction all the time. I love building business. I think it's so, so, so fun. And I love building online business. Like the computer just makes sense to me. Building things online, graphic design, all those things just work with my brain. But I'm someone who's really greatly affected by my time spent on a screen. I get lonely pretty quick when I'm spending time on a screen. I do not like interacting with people that way. I like interacting with my community through a screen because we're talking with each other. But otherwise, I'm somebody who, for some reason, you know how different things affect different people at different levels of effect. And for me, scrolling and entertainment, just immediately drains me. It's just not life-giving to me in any way. It doesn't fill me up. And so I just battle that feeling all the time in my career of oh, I love doing this, but now I'm really drained. So it's interesting. I don't know. That I always feel that way. But yeah, I need to remind myself. I start feeling overwhelmed and then I start not being as kind as I want to be because I get overwhelmed by doing that. So instead, it's been really nice to just keep continuously taking steps away and being wow, coming back to that mindset, if something major were to happen in my life 2 hours from now, I don't want to be sitting here feeling drained and overwhelmed by social media. If I don't do anything with my day, it wouldn't matter anyway if I got in a car accident 2 hours from now. All of the things that I'm chasing after would not matter. So why don't I sit in this moment and be at peace and joy and gratitude for my life and for everything that I've experienced so far up to this point. So yeah, I hope that's an encouraging reminder for you today. Another thing I wanted to share, I feel like there's going to be a tiny bit of overlap in the things that I'm saying in this podcast, but I want to shout out my friends who have a podcast called the Old Friends Podcast. They're doing such an awesome job, and they're my past roommates, but they just had me on their podcast. So by the time this podcast is out, this one that I'm recording right now, that podcast will be out with me as a guest on it. So I talk so much about my creative process, and they ask me tons of business questions and just tons about, my work. And a lot of you follow me on social media for video work and for my business. So if you're interested in all that I talked about there, please go listen to that podcast. I will link it below, and go support my friends and my past roommates. They're awesome. And they are, if you are somebody who's needing a great wedding planner, they have a wedding planning business and they're incredible at it. And so if you are someone who's engaged, and there's a lot of my social media platforms are very male dominated because the videography sphere is very male dominated, but maybe you have a fiance who is planning your wedding, so feel free to go send her over to their podcast too, or their platforms, because they do incredible work. So I just want to shout them out because they're shouting me out on their podcast this week. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna leave with an encouragement and then be done with this podcast for the day. So I feel like my whole podcast can be encouragement. I don't prepare anything. I keep saying this, but it's the free flow of thoughts per usual. So let's see. Here's my encouragement. I want you to really think about loving people today. Like, you are a human and you know the needs that you have. You know the insecurities that you have. You know the places that you're hurting right now, or you know the places where you're feeling deep joy, or you know that maybe you just want a hug or something. And if you can look up for a moment and realize that everybody else is a human just like you, and they're probably needing so many of the same things. And the next person you come across, I hope that you can look at them and see them for all that they are, even if they're really rude. You know what that rudeness is probably stemming from? A lot of pain. So just look at them with compassion in your eyes. And I'm not saying be walked over or anything, but just treat them with kindness. That's my encouragement to you today, is to today just put on the shoes of compassion and empathy, and do your best to love the person around you, the people around you, and maybe go out of your way to do something that is other person focused today, that you typically wouldn't do in a normal day. So there's my encouragement for the day. I hope that you have a great rest of your day or night. I hope you sleep well. I hope that you, really enjoy the blessing of the exact minute that you're living right now. I guess you're listening to me, so hopefully that I can be a blessing to you in this exact minute, but in the 10 minutes from now, I hope that you're blessed in whatever else you're doing. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to ramble on this time with the Armenian goodbye, as you heard in my last episode. So, thanks guys. Thanks for being here. I hope, as you've heard a million times, I hope you have a wonderful day. And here I am rambling. Okay, bye.